From housing to groceries and gas, the cost of living just keeps going up, and affordability is a real struggle for millions of Washingtonians. A federal report in December shows the Seattle metro area is the 5th most expensive region in the U.S. It's also the 4th most expensive to raise a child, according to a June report from Smart Asset. Meanwhile, Washington's grocery bill, the 6th highest in the country, according to an April report from Lending Tree. And gas prices, currently the 3rd highest in the nation, according to AAA. I spoke with one state lawmaker who says state policies are a large part to blame for the high prices. I'm joined by State Representative Corry. Chris, thank you so much for making the time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Chris, we saw your social media post regarding what you're calling the affordability crisis in Washington state. So in your opinion, what makes it a crisis at this point?
Well, it is just year after year of adding more and more to working and low-income Washingtonians across the state. This year, the legislative session was no exception. We were told by the progressive majority it was going to be a year of progressive revenue, that we were going to tax the rich. And unfortunately, what ended up passing was just more regressive taxes on, again, working Washingtonians across the state. And there's a variety of examples of that. I think probably one of the ones people are starting to see the most now is when they go to fill up their car. We just increased gas taxes, and that's on top of the Climate Commitment Act, which is adding an astronomical amount of revenue, or of cost to a gallon of gas. So while the nation is seeing declining gas prices, Washington, we're going the exact opposite direction.
As far as the tax increase that you were talking about in the last legislature, that is mostly, though, for large companies. It is a B&O tax. So when you talk about, low-income Washingtonians, it's not like they're the ones directly paying that B&O tax.
Well, actually, I would disagree. I think that we passed new B&O taxes across industries that didn't have it before. So if, let's say, you have a storage rental, that is now subject to B&O tax. It wasn't prior. And our research showed us that a majority of the people that are utilizing, like, let's say, a public storage or a U-Haul type facility, those are renters, typically low or moderate income folks. So that is you're going to see increased costs there. We passed increased taxes on different types of they call them sin taxes, right? But whether it was Zyn, other nicotine alternatives, we made alcohol licensing more expensive. And those taxes, I think, back to your original point, will go back down onto consumers. And one area that I think is going to be particularly interesting to see as it rolls out is in our grocery prices. So we passed in our state this year the extended producer responsibility. So it is going to be more expensive for food packaging and other ongoing products in that cycle, which I think will lead to higher costs for consumers.
Moving forward, Chris, I know that the Republicans are saying, okay, the Democrats have passed all of this, but do you as a party have any power to change anything around?
So we're going to continue to just speak truth to power, I guess, would be a popular phrase my colleagues like to use when it comes to the federal government, but I think it's just as true here. We're going to continue to point out where the flaws in the arguments are. We're going to try to build a coalition with moderate Democrats who are hearing from their constituents, and really we're just going to continue to talk to the citizens about what's going on and hopefully influence them in demanding more from their elected representatives, regardless of whether they're Republican or Democrat.
Well, yeah, it's expensive, and yeah, they're passing all of these taxes, but people keep moving here to Washington state, and there's a demand for housing, there's a demand for jobs here. What do you say to that?
Well, actually, the numbers are telling us that is starting to reverse, that the influx, the in-migration is actually being largely eaten up by out-migration. So we're kind of at this point. For a while, we were dipping down. We've slowed a little. And I think we may see that continue to go away, whether it's just because the jobs aren't here or because companies are moving. Companies and individuals, right? And I think for every Jeff Bezos, which was a very public move away from this state, and I think he did that to make a point, there is a lot of what I'm calling quiet quitting on this state. People who've just said, we can't afford it, we're going to leave. And when you look at other states, like us, similarly situated with no personal income tax, we're actually doing much worse. Our overall tax burden is much higher than some of those states. And for better or worse, states are competing for not just individuals, not just for companies, but for all sorts of things. And it is easier now more than ever to move jobs and to move people.
So you just heard Representative Corry talk about more people moving out. I wanted to dig deeper on that a little bit. So I reached out to the Office of Financial Management, and they say that the population does continue to grow overall in the state, but it's not growing as fast. For example, when it comes to net migration, David, we ended up with around 79,000 people in the past year, but the average growth in previous years has been around 98,000 people. So the growth is a bit slower. And also one thing that I wanted to add that Corry talked about. He says the biggest thing he's hearing from constituents are that they're worried about housing affordability, with housing costs around 53% higher in this state compared to the national average.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people, though, talking about making plans to move, especially after that huge tax hike we got. A lot of people are fed up, but the Democrats have the majority in the legislature, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon.